your GNS3 installed, you can probably go and launch it, and it would just look something like this with an empty screen. And if you look at your left tab, you have options to, install your routers, switches, end devices, firewalls, or you can just have all kinds of devices over here. And what I'll do today is I'll just show you how you can set up your Internet Working Operating System images. So there is this website which is called as searchforyou.info, and this has various Cisco iOS images. So the ones which you see from 1841 through 3750, most of these are your router images. So you can just download a couple of them which you want, say like the 3550, 2811, 2801. And if you don't know what each of these are, then you can probably just type in the same keyword on Google and it will show you whether it's a router or a switch. So for example, say that I don't know what a C2900. So I'm just going to say C2900 and then type in Cisco after that. And if you just get to the link on the Cisco's page, it is going to say that C2900 is an integrated services router. So that is a router, and what image you'll be downloading would be of a router. So try to look for the images from 1841 all the way through 3750. You can also set up Cisco ASA, which is a firewall appliance, and some switch modules can also be set up on your GNS3. And GNS3 can also support your Juniper platforms. And Sulabh, if you really didn't take a look at this page, it says that it can also be downloaded for your Macintosh computer. So you can download it for your Windows, Linux, or your Macintosh, depending on what operating system you're running. All right? Okay, cool. So I have downloaded a
question. I have a question, Krishna. Okay, now if we do use this for Macintosh, the commands that you'll be using in the command prompt will be different, correct or no?
No, not really.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Because what we are trying to run over here is the Cisco Internet Working Operating System. No matter you install GNS3 on Linux, Windows, or on Macintosh, you still are running the same iOS version, right? So the commands are not going to be vary between any of the operating systems what you're using, because what you are running over here is the Cisco Internet Working Operating System. No matter you run it on any one of them, the commands are not going to say, they're not going to change, so they're just going to be the same itself. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, awesome. So I do have a couple of images that I have downloaded on my computer. So you just need to download these images, put it in just a single folder wherever you need. So I just made something like GNS3 images. Okay. So I just got a couple of images in one of the folders. So we'll just go ahead and map them on the GNS3 program. So I've got a couple of iOS images, and what I do is I go to the edit menu, and in the edit menu, I do have an option called preferences. So when I get to the preferences, it just gives me all the settings for my GNS. So, I can run a host with a Unix image on it, and there are VirtualBox, and there are something called as QEMU VMs, which can be used in order to run host machines. But as of now, we will just concentrate only on the routers. So I have added two routers already on it. One is like a C2600, and the other one is a 3725. So if you would want to add a given image on any one of them, so let me just go ahead and remove them right now. So I click on C2600. I just removed all the images. It's just going to look brand new this way. So once you go to this website and download these images, you can just download all of them if you need, or you can just download a couple of them you need. So, one good exercise would be for you that you can just go ahead and Google and see what all these routers are, and you'd be able to you would get familiarized with what these routers are and when they were used. Are they still existing, or do they not exist? All the things is just given to you on Cisco website. So if I would say like C1841, it's a pretty old device, and I say Cisco. So try to look mostly on the Cisco's website rather than just going anywhere else. And, it would just tell you that, what this product is and, what feature sets does it have. And if just given with, or if you just Google any given router, and just if you would go ahead and type in something like end of life after that, or just put the keyword like EOL or end of life, it would show that if the device does exist or it doesn't exist and so on. So Cisco 1841 has already, the end of life was probably done or in 2010 November, and end of sale means the device is no more sold by Cisco. So when you just go and type in EOL after any given Cisco router, it shows if the device is still currently sold by Cisco, or if it exists, or if it does not exist. So by looking at either of the EOL or end of life, pretty much what most of the organizations do is they just go ahead and start replacing the routers and switches inside their organization, because post the EOL date, Cisco will not support no matter whatever happens to that device. Say you're working for a bank like Bank of America or maybe like Wells Fargo and so on. You were just using an old device, and due to this device going bad, say your business got interrupted for about half day, and you're going to go to Cisco and say, hey, because of your device not working, we just lost business for half a day. Cisco is going to say well, you know that we no longer support a device and you already had the device, and it's not our fault, it's your fault that you probably should have got that replaced before we stopped supporting it. So that is where a lot of projects do come in. For most of you who are looking at networking engineering roles as contractors, to do new things inside the environment, and also to do projects which are called as tech refresh or technology refresh projects, where all your old devices are replaced by the newer devices and your networks are brought up to speeds. It also can involve projects wherein you are having a lower bandwidth or a lesser bandwidth, and you would be, or the need of the hour would be to increase the bandwidth across all of your sites. So these are some of the projects which you would get hired to as contractors or as technical consultants. And maybe, once you start working on a couple of them, you will just get to know various different technologies. And some projects do involve you to replace a Cisco device with a Juniper device, because Juniper is pretty much emerging in the market today. And, they've just moved out of being only a service provider device to an enterprise device. So these are some of the projects on which you would be working in case you get hired somewhere. So end of life, end of support can just be seen by typing in the name of the device, followed by typing in the keyword EOL or, end of life. So
Question, whenever you install Gns3, do you recommend installing all the components, or what do you do with the components?
Just go ahead and install everything. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Are you trying to install right now or something?
Yes, I am.
Do you mind doing it later?
No, I can do it later.
Yeah, cool, thank you. All right, so you just go to the preferences option and go to Dynamips, and under that you have iOS routers. So I'm just going to remove these two routers right now. So all you need to do in order to mount an image inside Gns3 is to go click on New. It would say iOS image. Then click on Browse and go to the folder where you have stored your iOS images. So I do have my iOS images over here. So I'm just going to choose one of the image, say 3725 Advanced Enterprise MZ124, whatever is given under that. So I click on Open. So it says do you like to copy this to your images directory? Say yes. Take a couple of seconds and get copied, and then you do next. So it is going to say the name of your device will be C3725. If you want to change it, sure, you can just type it as Cisco 3725 or just leave it as it is. And then it is going to say that the platform is C3725. So there are some inbuilt devices or inbuilt model numbers which are already on GNS3, and you can just use that as your platform. And you also get an option saying like, this is an ether switch router. Ether switch router is something like a device which can do both routing and switching. So there are switches which just do switching functions inside a network. So our switching is usually done in layer 2 on the OSI model, and our routing is done in the layer 3 in the OSI model. But some switches are capable of doing both routing and switching functionalities. And if you do have a router which you want it to act as a router and a switch, you can use, this is an ether switch router. But for our lab purposes, let's not use that option mostly. You can just try it and see what it does, but sure, you probably might not be needing it. And the next option says that please check the amount of RAM that you need to allocate to the in and working operating system or iOS. Just leave it at 128 MB, that's fine. And then click on next. So it gives you an option to choose the default network adapters that needs to be inserted into every instance of this router. So if I go to a model like Cisco 3700, or let's just go specific with Cisco 3725 router. I hope most of you have seen the front plane and the back plane of a router. So the front of the router just looks something like this, whereas at the back of the router, it's a 400 cross. Let me just look for a little bigger image. Okay, yeah, this is better. So on your router, you just have two interfaces, one to connect to one router and to the other router. If you need to connect more interfaces or more routers into this device, let's say, or say we do have an instance wherein like we are just following the hub and spoke method, and I do have my 3725 router, and maybe you have like 4 locations. Oh, let me just take it as 5. So from your 5 locations, you need to connect to your hub site in order to go to the internet, but your router just has only 2 interfaces. So do we need to buy an additional router paying whatever the amount it is? Not really. But what we can do is we can just install a module inside this router so that you can have multiple different ports connect to it or multiple different interfaces being supported on it. So that can be done by installing a card or a module on these 3 different slots which are given. So you do have slots like 16 ESW or the switch module that can have like 16 different interfaces which is going on this bigger black plate over here. Or maybe you can just install 4 or 2 interfaces as per our need basis. So you do have multiple different cards that are available. And if you just want to see like what cards are available, if you just go and click on this option or the menu which is available for you, you can just go and Google each of these cards. Say like, I'll go and look for NM4T, for example. It just gives you like multiple different modules. So I'll do like NM4T Cisco. So when you go to NM4T Cisco, it says like it is a serial network interface card. So by using this, I can connect multiple different T1 circuits. So that's the purpose of having this card. And how does it look like? It looks like this. So it just shows you like what different type of cards can be installed on the router and what different interfaces can be on a router by just Googling the name of the card. And you also have something like NM16ESW. So let's just go look up what NM16ESW does. NM16ESW. So it is an ether switch module, and by connecting this card, you will be getting about 16 different interfaces on your routers. And these routers, or when you